There is no applause for showing up when it's hard. There is no standing ovation for choosing the right thing over the easy thing when no one else will ever know. There is no trophy for the thousands of silent moments where you kept going, not because you felt like it, not because it was fun, not because the results were instant, but because you said you would. And that is where trust is built. Not the kind the world sees, the kind that lives inside you, the kind that steadies your hands when the future is uncertain, the kind that silences your doubts when your old self starts to whisper. Because here's the truth. You don't need the world to trust you. You need you to trust you. Because if you don't believe you'll follow through, if you don't believe your words carry weight, if you don't believe you can count on your own discipline, then nothing else matters. No dream, no strategy, no mentor, no opportunity can save a life that is led by someone they cannot rely on. You must become your own anchor. And that anchor is consistency, not perfection, not intensity, not inspiration. Consistency, the decision to keep showing up when it's boring, when it's slow, when it's lonely, when it's unsexy, when the voice in your head says, you can skip today. Consistency doesn't scream. It whispers. It whispers, keep going when no one is clapping. It whispers, this matters when the results are invisible. It whispers, trust is earned in the unseen. And it is. Trust isn't built in big wins. It's built in small repetitions, in the integrity of your routine, in the sacred rhythm of doing what you said you does, especially when the mood is long past. That's the difference between those who dabble and those who dominate. Dabblers chase emotions. Champions chase alignment. Because champions know that consistency is not just a habit, it's a promise. A promise you make to your future self. A promise that says, you can count on me. And the people who win at the highest levels, they aren't the ones with the loudest ambition. They're the ones with the quietest discipline. They're the ones who make consistency their identity. Because when it becomes identity, it's no longer a decision, it's just who you are. You don't have to ask, will I train today? You train. You don't have to wonder, will I stay focused? You're focused. You don't negotiate with distractions, excuses, or temporary discomfort because you're no longer making choices based on how you feel. You're making choices based on who you are. And you are consistent. You are someone who shows up. You are someone who follows through. You are someone who can be trusted with goals, with people, with power. Because power without consistency is a loaded weapon in untrained hands. It'll destroy everything you're trying to build. But consistency, it gives you strength that scales. It gives you momentum that multiplies. It gives you credibility that doesn't need to shout. It makes your life speak before your mouth opens. People will start to feel it. Your presence will shift. Not because you told them, but because consistency proves you. And it starts from the inside. It starts by keeping promises to the person in the mirror. It starts by honoring your word when it would be easier to compromise. It starts by recognizing that every time you break your own standard, you teach yourself you cannot be trusted. And eventually, your goals will stop believing in you. Your dreams will get quiet. Not because they're impossible, but because you've trained yourself not to listen to them. That's the cost of inconsistency. It's not just missed opportunities. It's self-betrayal. It's looking in the mirror and knowing you've become fluent in the language of delay. But the good news? You can flip the script today. You can rewire your reputation with yourself starting now. You don't need a full transformation. You just need a decision. A decision that says, I'm done negotiating with average. I'm done building trust with everyone but myself. I'm done living on the high of potential and the low of inconsistency. Because you are not here to flirt with greatness. You are here to marry it. To build a foundation brick by brick, rep by rep, moment by moment, until one day the world looks at you and says, how did they become unstoppable? And the answer will be simple. You kept showing up, and you never stopped. Because that's what it takes. Not one big moment of brilliance. but 1,000 small, quiet moments of obedience. Obedience to the path. Obedience to the process. Obedience to the standard you set on the days you were clear, even when you're walking through days that are clouded. And that kind of consistency, it builds something deeper than motivation. It builds certainty. The kind of certainty that makes you move when others hesitate. The kind of certainty that silences every voice that says, you're not ready. You are ready not because the conditions are perfect, but because your pattern is. Because consistency builds internal confidence. It builds that deep down knowing. I don't rise to the occasion, I rise to my level of preparation. That's what separates leaders from followers. That's what separates visionaries from victims. That's what separates those who hope from those who harvest. Because consistency doesn't just build trust with yourself. It builds results. And results attract respect. Not noise, not attention. Respect. Because when people know you'll show up every time, rain or shine, broke or blessed, seen or unseen, they begin to trust you with more. More responsibility. More leadership. More impact. More opportunity. Because the world doesn't give to the talented, it gives to the reliable. You don't have to be the best. But if you're the most consistent, eventually you win. Because consistency is the great equalizer. It's the one thing that closes the gap between average and elite. The one thing that makes skill irrelevant if your habits are weak. The one thing that transforms you from someone who wants it to someone who earns it. But here's what they won't tell you. Consistency is boring. It's not glamorous. It's not always exciting. You will not always feel inspired. You will not always feel motivated. You will not always see immediate results. And that's the trap. Because most people chase excitement, not excellence. They want the feeling, not the foundation. But foundations are not emotional, they are engineered. And you're here to build something that lasts. So let it be boring. Let it be repetitive. Let it be hard. Because every time you show up anyway, you vote for the life you say you want. You vote for the identity you're stepping into. You vote for the future you swore you'd create. And each vote compounds. Each decision matters. Every time you keep your word to yourself, it's a deposit in the bank of self-trust. And one day, when life hits you hard, and it will, when everything feels like it's falling apart, when the winds rage and the ground shakes, you'll stand, you'll move, you'll lead. Because your confidence won't be borrowed from someone else's belief in you. It will be built, bricked into your soul from years of consistency. From years of being the one person in your life who could be trusted to show up, rain or shine, results or not, applause or silence. You. And when that day comes, you won't need to explain anything. Your life will speak louder than your words ever could. You will be the proof, not just of what's possible, but of what happens when consistency becomes your lifestyle. Because this is what separates the remembered from the forgotten. This is what defines the difference between a life that impacts millions and one that dies in the graveyard of almost. Consistency is not sexy. It doesn't trend. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't go viral. But it builds empires. It builds credibility. It builds stability. It builds trust so deep, even when you fall, you rise faster. Because the system holds. And that's the shift. You stop relying on motivation. You start relying on systems, because systems don't lie. Systems don't flinch. Systems don't care about how you feel, they function. And the discipline builds systems that carry them through every storm. They don't wait for the right mood. They don't beg for energy. They don't negotiate with weakness. They execute. Why? Because their lives are too sacred to sabotage with excuses. They understand this simple truth. You can't trust a person who's inconsistent. And you can't become someone you trust until you're consistent. It's the law of integrity. And if you break that law, if you allow your effort to be dictated by your emotion, you become unpredictable to others and worse to yourself. Uncertainty becomes your identity. You start second guessing your purpose. You start building without belief. You start running from anything that asks more of you than you're used to giving. That's why inconsistency is the enemy. It doesn't just steal your goals. It steals your confidence. And when your confidence goes, your voice gets smaller. Your reach gets weaker. Your vision gets dimmer. You stop living. You start existing. But consistency? Consistency heals all of that. It brings your power back. It turns your whisper into a weapon. It restores your voice, not through noise, but through evidence. The evidence of hundreds of days where you showed up regardless. That evidence becomes your armor. You stop needing people to believe in you because you believe in you. Because you've watched yourself do hard things. You've proven that your feelings don't make the rules. You've earned the right to stand tall, to speak loud, to lead boldly, not because you're perfect, but because you're reliable. That's the real wealth. To be reliable, to be dependable, to be someone who doesn't just promise big but delivers daily. And when that's who you are, everything changes. People treat you differently. Opportunities stick to you. Doors open because your reputation walked in first. And you no longer need to convince the world of your worth because your track record does it for you. But all of it starts with consistency, with doing what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when it's inconvenient, especially when the only person watching is you, because that's when it matters most. Not when it's exciting, not when it's easy, but when it's silent, when no one is clapping, when no one is texting you, you got this. When no one is posting about you or cheering for you or validating your process, that's when consistency becomes a test of character, not performance. Because you're not building this life for claps. You're building it for clarity, for peace, for the quiet pride of knowing I said I would and I did. That is how trust is built. That is how confidence is born. Not from a motivational speaker, not from a great quote, but from pattern, from behavior, from identity, from ritual. The world will try to sell you shortcuts, but consistency is the only real compound interest in life. It multiplies without fanfare. It sharpens your edge until you cut through every excuse. And the best part? Consistency is a decision you control. No one can stop you from showing up. No one can stop you from staying the course. No one can take away your process unless you give it up. And that means your power is not in the goal, it's in the grind. The daily grind, the mundane, the invisible. The moment you understand that mastery lives in the repetition, you no longer need external permission to keep going. You just go. You go tired. You go unsure. You go scared. But you go. And each time you do, you add one more brick to the foundation no storm can shake. You stop chasing breakthrough moments because you realize the breakthrough is you. You are the result of every small choice, every 1% effort, every early morning and late night and midday decision to stay locked in when quitting would be easier. You are the result of your standards, and the world rises to meet your standards, not your desires. If you desire growth, but only commit occasionally, you'll never trust yourself. But if you commit relentlessly, with no loopholes, no maybe later, no I'll try, then you create something rare. You create a version of yourself you can believe in. You no longer need to be told what to do. You know what to do and you do it. You no longer hope for success. You expect it because your consistency has made it inevitable. And here's what most never realize. It's not talent that builds legacies. It's trust. And trust is earned through consistency. Not just with others, but with yourself. So keep showing up. Keep sharpening. Keep building. Because every time you do, you build you. Then let us bring this home with fire, with force, with finality. Because this is not just about momentum. This is about becoming. The world is full of people who start, full of people who try, full of people who say, "This time it's different," only to fall again into the same pit of inconsistency that devours discipline and spits out regret. But not you, because you understand something sacred now. Consistency isn't just a tool, it's an identity. It's not something you do when it's easy, when it's sunny, when you feel like it. It's something you do because it's who you are. You are the kind of person who finishes. You are the kind of person who follows through. You are the kind of person who can be trusted not just by others, but by the one person that matters most, you. And that kind of trust, it doesn't just give you confidence. It gives you freedom. The freedom to move forward without hesitation. The freedom to speak without shame. The freedom to lead without fear of collapse because you know your foundation is solid. Built on quiet mornings. Built on tired evenings. Built on discipline when motivation died. Built on choices repeated until they became character. That's how real freedom is earned. Through consistency. Through habits so deep they outlast temptation. Through self-respect so high it repels compromise. Through focus so sharp it cuts through the noise of 1,000 distractions. And when you live like that, when you stop disappearing on yourself, your life stops being reactive. It becomes intentional, deliberate, powerful. Because now, you're no longer chasing alignment. You are alignment. Every thought, every action, every room you enter, every word you speak, every goal you set, they all match, they all reflect, they all reinforce who you are. You're not leaking energy into half-built habits anymore. You're not bleeding belief because of the gap between your dreams and your discipline. You're sealed, whole, consistent. And that's why now you're dangerous. Dangerous to every limitation you once tolerated. Dangerous to the comfort you once worshipped. Dangerous to the weakness that once dictated your patterns. Because now you've seen what happens when you stop quitting on yourself. You've seen what happens when you stop chasing perfection and start embracing progress. You've seen what happens when you keep showing up. And what happens is this. You become unstoppable. Not because you're the strongest. Not because you're the fastest, but because you're the most faithful. Faithful to the process. Faithful to the vision. Faithful to your word. And that is rare. That is respected. That is revolutionary. In a world addicted to instant, you have become a master of sustainability. In a world chasing dopamine, you've chosen discipline. And in a world waiting to feel ready, you've chosen to move anyway. So this is your reminder. This is your truth. Consistency builds trust even with yourself. And when you trust yourself, there is no goal too far, no mountain too steep, no fear too loud, no room too big, because you're no longer wondering if you can. You know you will, because you always do. Because that's who you are now. Consistent, complete, capable. And no one can take that from you. Because it wasn't given. It was earned. Everyone wants something. Some want wealth. Some want peace. Some want respect. Others want revenge. But the wanting, the desire, that part is easy. It's automatic. It requires nothing but breath in your lungs and a flicker of imagination. Even the laziest, the most beaten down, the most bitter still want something. Desire is the spark. But it's not the fire. It doesn't warm a house. It doesn't build a future. It doesn't protect your family or write your legacy or save you from yourself when the lights go out and the doubt creeps in. Desire is not enough because between the life you want and the life you have is a bridge. And that bridge is called discipline. It is the great separator. The razor's edge between potential and power, between a good intention and a great life. It is not fancy. It is not always inspiring, but it is faithful. It is real. It is the one currency that every successful person trades in, and the one thing the masses try to avoid. Most people don't fail because they lack dreams. They fail because they lack follow-through. They romanticize the vision but reject the process. They love the idea of winning, but loathe the cost. And when the grind comes knocking, they retreat to comfort, wrap themselves in distraction, and try to convince the world and themselves that they just weren't ready. But the truth is, they were never disciplined. Because discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't care about the weather. It doesn't negotiate with your mood. It doesn't need to be motivated or applauded or seen. Discipline just shows up over and over and over again. It's the 5 a.m. alarm clock with no one watching, the cold shower, the blank page filled in silence, the workout when you're sore, the call when you're scared, the no to what feels good now in service of what feels right later. It is the steel spine behind every success story. It is the hidden engine behind every transformation. It is the difference between those who start and those who finish. And it begins in the mind. Before it's ever a habit, discipline is a mindset, a standard, a refusal to break promises to yourself. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I will no longer be at war with my potential. I will no longer sabotage my future because of momentary cravings. Because that's what undisciplined living is, self-sabotage disguised as self-love. It tells you, take a break, you deserve it. Skip today, it's just one day. Start Monday, you're tired. But discipline whispers something different. You said you'd do it, so do it. Your word means more than your mood. Comfort is a lie dressed as kindness. That's the voice you must feed. That's the path you must walk. Not once, not for a season, daily. And that path, it is narrow. Few walk it. Fewer stay on it because it doesn't flatter you. It doesn't beg for your loyalty. It simply exists, and it dares you to be great enough to earn its rewards. But make no mistake, its rewards are limitless. Because once you learn to master discipline, everything becomes possible. Want a better body? Discipline. Want deeper focus? Discipline. Want stronger relationships, better finances, a sharper mind, a more grounded soul? Discipline is the door. It is the tool you sharpen until your life is shaped by intention, not impulse. It is the muscle you train until your days are ruled by purpose, not pressure. It is the language of kings and queens, of masters and legends, of the few who rise while the rest scroll, who build while the rest dream, who endure while the rest explain. And once it's in you, it changes you. Your aura shifts. Your posture straightens. You speak less, but say more. You stop explaining yourself to people who can't hear your frequency. Because discipline elevates you. It cleans out your life. It strips away excuses, distractions, toxic habits, and needy energies. And in their place, it gives you something priceless. Control. Control over your thoughts, over your choices, over your reactions, over your time. And in a world that's constantly trying to control you, that is freedom. But make no mistake, discipline is not about perfection. It's not about rigidity or self-punishment or living like a machine. It's about alignment. It's about integrity. It's about being able to trust yourself. Because the truth is, most people don't lack confidence. They lack evidence. Evidence that they do what they say they'll do. That they can be counted on. That when it's hard, they don't fold. Discipline gives you that evidence. It's the compound interest of character. Every rep, every reading, every early wake up, every dollar saved, every excuse resisted, it stacks, it multiplies. Until one day, you don't just look different, you are different. You walk with a quiet authority. You move with precision. You no longer need motivation because identity has taken its place. You don't say, I want to be disciplined. You say, I am disciplined. It's who you are. It's in your bones. It's in your habits. It's in the way you enter a room, the way you say no to lesser things, the way you stare down temptation and remember what you're building. You are no longer a slave to feelings. You are a servant of purpose. And that is power. Because power, real power, is not found in control over others. It is found in control over yourself. It's the ability to command your thoughts when anxiety strikes, to direct your energy when fatigue sets in, to steer your actions when the mood to quit disguises itself as logic. Most people let their lives be dictated by passing emotions, not anchored commitments. But you've decided differently. You've chosen to live by design, not by default. And design takes discipline. It means setting the terms, defining your standards, drawing the line between who you've been and who you refuse to be anymore. It's easy to drift. It's easy to get lost in the noise, the dopamine, the delay, the devices that feed you lies and call it comfort. But easy never changed the world. Discipline did. Discipline built every tower that still stands, wrote every book that still speaks, crafted every business, body, relationship, legacy worth remembering. It doesn't matter where you start. It matters what you do. It doesn't matter how talented you are if you're inconsistent. It doesn't matter how smart you are if you don't execute. Talent without discipline is wasted brilliance. Potential without discipline is a slow death sentence. Because every day you wait, every day you delay, every day you say tomorrow, you deepen the gap between the life you want and the life you have. Discipline is the only thing that builds the bridge across that gap. And every step you take on that bridge, every disciplined choice is a brick. Every meal you prep, every rep you finish, every journal you write, every hour you focus without distraction. Every time you choose growth over gossip, purpose over pleasure, direction over distraction, brick by brick. It's not loud. It's not sexy, but it's unstoppable. Because while motivation may get you going, discipline keeps you going when it gets boring, when it gets painful, when it gets lonely, when it gets hard. And it will get hard. There will be days you don't feel like it. Days where the bed feels warmer than the dream. Days where failure whispers that it's safer to stay the same. Days where your mind will beg for the path of least resistance. And those days, those are the most important days of your life. Because what you do when it's hard determines who you become when it's easy. Those are the days that write your identity, that cast the votes for your future, that determine whether you're just interested in success or married to it. And the people you admire, the ones who've built empires, moved nations, left legacies, they weren't smarter than you. They were more disciplined. They didn't always feel like it, but they always did it. And that's the difference. Discipline is not a talent. It's not a gene. It's a decision to take ownership, a decision to rise when you used to retreat, a decision to lead yourself when no one is coming to save you. It is the ultimate self-respect to say, I will not betray my future for my feelings. That's the kind of conviction that builds greatness. And greatness true, greatness is not accidental. It is the result of radical responsibility and unwavering standards. It is the result of becoming someone whose behavior reflects their vision, not their environment. That's what discipline does. It turns your dreams into your defaults. It turns your one day into day one. It turns your intentions into results and your results into legacy. Because when your discipline compounds long enough, it speaks louder than any excuse ever could. And eventually, it speaks for you. People won't ask what you're building, they'll see it. They'll feel it. They'll know it. Because your life will be evidence. Evidence of effort. Evidence of commitment. Evidence of a soul that refused to fold under the weight of weakness. You become the kind of person others model their lives after, not because you talked about it, but because you lived it. Then lean in, because now we go deeper. Because discipline, at its core, is not just about getting things done. It's about becoming someone who cannot be moved, someone who cannot be tempted out of alignment, someone whose presence is so grounded in purpose, even chaos cannot shake their composure. It is not about being a machine. It is about being masterful. It is about living in such harmony with your own values that the idea of betraying them feels like spiritual violence. Discipline is self-respect in action. It's not punishment, it's protection. It protects your vision from distraction. It protects your goals from your weaknesses. It protects your future from the damage of your present impulses. And the more you live by it, the more magnetic you become, because the world feels it when someone is in full control of themselves, in their language, in their body, in their energy, in the way they say no to what's easy so they can say yes to what matters. You begin to radiate a kind of quiet authority, the kind that doesn't need to be loud because it's real. People trust the disciplined. They hire them. They follow them. They partner with them because discipline builds a reputation that talent alone can't touch. You become predictable in the best way possible. Predictable in excellence. Predictable in consistency. Predictable in your ability to show up, solve problems, and raise standards just by walking in the room. That's leadership. That's what the world rewards. Not good intentions, but great habits. And the beautiful thing about discipline is that it compounds even when no one's watching. Every small act stacks. Every ignored craving, every workout you didn't skip, every project you delivered on time, every time you bit your tongue instead of reacting emotionally, every dollar you saved instead of spent, every morning you showed up. It all stacks. And one day, without warning, it explodes into inevitability. You go from wondering if it'll work to knowing you'll win because the data doesn't lie. The habits are too consistent. The character too reinforced, the identity too stable. You are no longer trying to become the kind of person who succeeds. You are that person. Not because it was easy, but because you stopped choosing easy. You chose the path of discipline. You chose the path of power. And now, the results are hunting you. Because disciplined people don't chase, they attract. They attract opportunity. They attract trust. They attract responsibility because they can carry it. They attract abundance not because they beg for it, but because they've become the kind of vessel that holds it. And that's the final truth. Discipline doesn't just get you what you want. It makes you worthy of it. Because the universe is just. It may not be fast. It may not be fair, but it is just. And it will always give the fullest rewards to the most prepared hands. So become the hands, become the vessel, become the bridge between your desire and your result. And never forget, you don't need to feel like it. You don't need to be in the mood. You don't need to wait for a sign. You just need to decide, I will be disciplined. I will be excellent. I will be someone who finishes. And then you move every day, no matter what. That's how mountains move. That's how legacies are written. That's how ordinary people become unstoppable. Then let's keep building. Because the moment you truly grasp this, everything in your life changes. You stop arguing with reality. You stop bargaining with laziness. You stop entertaining doubt. And you start acting like the person you were always meant to be. The person who doesn't hope their life will change. The person who makes it change. That's what discipline does. It shifts you from passive to powerful, from spectator to architect, from wishing to wielding. You become dangerous. Not to others, but to every limitation that once held you back. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to excuses. Dangerous to the lower self that used to win when no one was watching. Because now you're watching, and you're no longer letting that version of you make decisions. You've taken the wheel. You've silenced the noise. You've stepped into the seat of ownership. And you know what you discover there? Peace. Not comfort, not ease, but peace. The kind of peace that only comes from alignment. From living in such agreement between your vision and your behavior that you sleep well, not because the world is perfect, but because you are showing up fully, relentlessly, unapologetically. Discipline gives you that peace because you're no longer at war with yourself. The inner war battle between what you say you want and what you actually do ends the moment you surrender to discipline. And in that surrender, you find power. You find a rhythm. You stop starting over. You stop self-sabotaging every time it gets quiet. You stop quitting right before the breakthrough. You stop entertaining every craving for chaos and drama and distraction that used to steal months, years from your potential. And you finally realize you don't need more time. You need more discipline, because 5 focused years can change your entire bloodline. 5 years of strict discipline. 5 years of building without clout. 5 years of studying while others party. 5 years of investing instead of consuming. 5 years of speaking less and executing more. 5 years of keeping your word even when no one's watching. Do you understand what that would do? It would make you unrecognizable. And it doesn't start with a massive leap. It starts with one choice. One decision to say, no more. No more delay. No more drift. No more playing small to avoid the responsibility of your own greatness. Because that's what undisciplined living is. Fear wearing a mask. Fear of your own power. Fear of what happens if you really show up. Fear of what happens if you actually win, because then the excuses expire. But you're ready now. You're ready to let go of the identity that's more committed to comfort than change. You're ready to become so grounded in discipline that your past can no longer reach you. So lit with purpose that your old temptations look like shadows in the face of your new light. So anchored in alignment that even if everything around you crumbles, you remain. That's what happens when discipline becomes your default. You don't just reach goals. You outgrow limits. You don't just build success. You embody it. You don't just perform well. You live well. Everywhere you go, everything you touch feels ordered, focused, intentional, because you are. Because you become the kind of person who builds not just results, but realness. Not just momentum, but mastery. And that mastery, it's yours forever. Because no one can take what you become. And if you're still here, still breathing, still leaning in, then you're one of the rare ones. Because most will never walk this far. Most will turn back when it gets quiet, when the applause fades, when the mirror becomes too honest, when the grind starts asking for blood instead of dreams. But not you, because somewhere deep inside, you know you were born to carry more. You were born to lead. You were born to rise, not to be a servant of circumstance, but to shape it, not to be a follower of fate, but a forger of destiny. And that level of becoming it has a price. That price is discipline. Daily, hourly, breath by breath. When no one believes in you, when no one understands what you're building, when even your closest circle questions your silence, your absence, your standards, you keep building. You keep choosing. You keep planting seeds when everyone else is chasing shade. Because the discipline don't build for the moment, they build for forever. Their work echoes. Their energy lasts. Their name becomes more than a label, it becomes a legacy. And legacy is not something you leave behind when you die. It's something you live every day. It's the ripple of your discipline. The wake your standards create. The unseen thousands who shift because you had the courage to live at a level most only talk about. So if it feels lonely, good. That's how you know you're not average. If it feels hard, perfect. That's how you know you're walking the right path. If you feel resistance, excellent. That means your old self is fighting for survival. Let it die. Let the version of you who made excuses, avoided discomfort, chased pleasure, blamed circumstances, let that version burn. Because what's rising from those ashes is a force, not a trend, not a phase, a force of discipline so deep, the world bends around it. And don't be surprised when it happens. Don't be surprised when people start asking, how did you do it? Don't be surprised when they treat you like you're lucky when you know the truth. It wasn't luck. It was every decision you made in silence. It was every morning you rose before the world did. It was every craving you ignored, every emotion you mastered, every time you kept your word when quitting would have been easier. This is your proof that discipline works, that it always works. that it may be slow, may be brutal, may be thankless, but it never fails. And now, you don't just believe in discipline. You are it. You breathe it. You wear it in your posture, in your boundaries, in your energy, in your results. Because once you live like this long enough, it stops being something you do. It becomes who you are. You don't have discipline. You've become disciplined. And from that moment on, nothing is ever the same again. The bridge between desire and results, you didn't just cross it. You built it with your hands, with your choices, with your silence, with your standard. And now that bridge carries others too. Because when you walk in discipline, you lead without speaking. You inspire without trying. You win without needing to be seen. And you become undeniable. Then let's walk it together into the final stretch. Because this isn't about hype anymore. This is about honor. The honor of showing up when no one claps. The honor of holding the line when no one sees. The honor of knowing that you chose the high road, the narrow road, the lonely road, not because it was easy, but because it was right. That's what discipline ultimately gives you. A life you can respect. A name you can be proud of. A future built not on fantasy, but on foundation. And when the storms come, and they will come, your foundation will not shake. Because you didn't build your life on emotion. You built it on execution. While others ran on feelings, you ran on focus. While others chased dopamine, you chased destiny. And now you carry something they cannot comprehend. A stillness, a clarity, a presence. You've become the person they call when everything's falling apart. Not because you're flashy, but because you're faithful. Because people trust the ones who never needed to be motivated to show up. You've earned that trust not with words, but with weight. The weight of consistency. The weight of self-governance. The weight of a life lived in full alignment. That's rare. That's sacred. That's what legacy is built on. And it all started the moment you understood. Discipline is not the enemy. It is not the burden. It is not the thing keeping you from freedom. It is the freedom. Freedom from regret. Freedom from dependence. Freedom from the prison of potential that was never realized because comfort was too loud. So here's the truth. You will not always feel like it. You will not always be applauded for it. You will not always be recognized for it. But if you stay the course, if you choose discipline over drama, purpose over pleasure, direction over distraction, you will wake up one day and look around at a life so strong, so pure, so earned that no one will be able to deny it. Not even you. You won't need to convince yourself anymore because your life will speak. And it will say, this was a person who didn't just dream. This was a person who delivered. They didn't just want it. They worked for it. They didn't just build success. They became the bridge between desire and results. And now the world is better because of it. And so are you. Because you didn't wait for permission. You didn't wait for ideal conditions. You decided. And when you decided, you became dangerous. And when you became dangerous, you became disciplined. And when you became disciplined, nothing could stop you. So now you know. Now you remember. Discipline isn't just a tool. It's your truth. It's your identity. And it will carry you through storms. It will carry you through failure. It will carry you through doubt, temptation, fatigue, and pressure. It will carry you across the bridge from who you were to who you were born to be. And once you've crossed that bridge, you never go back. Because once you live like this, you never want anything less again.